My guess is that one of the medium fragments somehow came into contact with Aiden and the fox at some point after my first fight against him, and it gave them access to forbidden knowledge for the specific purpose of defeating me. Once their purpose was fulfilled, they must have lost most of the new knowledge except for small parts of it that they get to keep as reward for their cooperation. This is why they were able to invent a spell that creates food out of nothing, which normally should have been impossible by using only the knowledge available at the time. So you're saying that there's still a chance then, I ask her. Aiden can still be beaten. Why are you so obsessed with finding ways to defeat Aiden? Araka says. He has hardly shown any interest in fighting against you in the past. As long as you don't overly provoke him yourself or step on his toes somehow, I don't see why you would have to fight him before you leave Varathia. Maybe you're right, maybe I should have just concentrated on the God of Time. I just can't bring myself to trust him, he's so unpredictable. If I want to win this tournament, I will have to beat Aiden too, since he's a participant. I'm just trying to be extra careful, you never know what might happen. Yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest with you. Nanaka says, if you are so worried about him, then I suppose I could show you a few of the tricks that he used against me in the Stillwinter. Remind me to teach them to you after I'm done with today's lesson. That would be great, I say. I'll make sure to remind you later then. Alright, Araka says, do you have your notebook with you? Yes, it's right here. Give me a second. I say as I pull the notebook and a pen out of the backpack that were lying next to me on the ground. Then prepare yourself, Araka says. You're going to have a lot to write down if you want to learn any of my spells. Not long after Araka starts giving me the details about her spells, we hear a very loud distorted noise coming from Darren's transceiver while he was working on it. Instead of giving any signs of stopping, the sound just keeps changing its tone and getting louder as Darren continues to prod the device with his enchanted tools. Can you shut off the infernal racket? Araka says. Some of us are trying to teach here. You're acting as if there is anyone in the world who could tell the difference between the noise and the inane ramblings that you call teaching, Darren says, while he continued to work on his device. What is it that you're even trying to do, you oaf? Araka says loudly. Annoy us to death. You will see soon enough, Darren says, as he once again moves one of the tools, and the pitch of the sound the transceiver is making is becoming more unbearable to listen to. After 20 more seconds of this colorful musical performance, the noises from the device finally stop, and they're replaced with a short period of complete silence. Darren finally decides to pick the transceiver up with his hand and speak into it. Hello? Darren says, can you hear me? There is a brief pause, but then we hear a woman's voice coming out of the transceiver, talking in a very hesitant tone. Darren? The woman says. Darren? Is that really you? Yes, Sophie, Darren says. It's me. I've been trying to contact you ever since I got here, but... You idiot, Darren's wife shouts, sounding as if she were on the verge of crying. Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? I thought you were dead. We then hear her catching her breath a few times while trying to stop herself from bursting into tears. I know, Darren says. I'm really sorry. This island seems to block all outside communication that isn't authorized by the organizer of the tournament. I had no idea about any of this before coming here. If I had known, I warned you not to go there, Sophie interrupts. Why do you have to take these huge risks every single time? Why does it always have to be like this? Why couldn't you at least take me with you? Sophie's much too dangerous here for you, Darren says. I could not have protected you. I can handle myself in a fight, Sophie says. You know that. This isn't the fighting ring back at home, Darren says. Everyone here is a mage. Well, almost everyone. Hey, easy now. You would have stood no chance against them, Sophie. Please, I know that you have been training hard all these past years while I was away, hoping that one day I'd take you with me on one of my journeys. But this was the very last place where I could have wanted you to join me. The things I have seen here, you couldn't even imagine. Hey, jackass, Araka shouts all of a sudden. How about you get up from that rock, grab your transceiver, take that conversation of yours somewhere else, preferably somewhere far away from here where I won't be forced to listen to your grating voice while I conduct my lesson. How about I take your amulet and throw it in the river, you annoying old hag? Darren snaps. Can you seriously not keep quiet for even 1 minute? Darren, Sophie says. Who was that? Oh, that was Darren says, trying in vain to find a way to describe Araka to someone who has never met her before. That was her name is Araka, Hardwick intervened. She's a 10,000-year-old spirit trapped in an amulet who has threatened to destroy the entire world several times in the past. She also killed more than half of the gods herself. I'm Hardwick, by the way, a good friend of Darren. Very pleased to make your acquaintance. A friend? Sophie asks, sounding very shocked. But Darren doesn't have any friends. That's what she gets fucking stupefied by? Okay, that's interesting. Um, the Hardwick laughs. I thought you might say something like that. I assure you that I'm quite real, not at all imaginary, if that is what you're implying. No, you don't understand, Sophie says. Darren always travels alone. He's done it all his life. Even when he comes back here, he barely interacts with anyone from our hometown. He's practically been pushing people away for so long as I can remember. I've heard many people being grateful to him for saving him or singing his praises because of his heroic deeds, but I've never heard anyone openly calling him a friend before. What has changed? Is he still the same grumpy, unapproachable Darren that I've known since we were kids? Well, you don't need to worry about that, Hardwick says. He's still just as grumpy as ever. We've all gotten used to it. All? Sophie asks, confused. There are more of you? How many people are traveling in your group right now? There are currently 8 of us, depending on how you want to count us. Darren says, technically 2 are living inside the same body, but there's still 2 different individuals. So 8 people? Darren says, you're traveling with 7 other people and the rest of these people are your friends as well? I mean, yeah, I'd like to think so. Darren says, some of them at least. Don't listen to his delusions. He's just paying us to say we're his friends. That's hilarious. That's actually something a dude would say, a friend would say. That's funny. Don't worry, we're all his friends. Your husband is in good hands. Don't listen to him. He's delusional. He's just paying us to say you're his friends. That's hilarious. Damn it, Barry, Darren says. All of a sudden, Darren's wife lets out a burst of laughter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, Sophie says. It's just that I'm so happy for you, Darren. I never thought I'd see the day when you would be surrounded by a group of friends bickering with each other. It all feels so surreal. Maybe something good came out of this mage tournament after all. I didn't mean to interrupt, Kate says, but I'm finding it rather odd that you were more shocked about Darren having friends than about the mention of the 10,000-year-old spirit in an amulet, or the 2 individuals living inside the same body. Can we be certain that all the words are being properly transmitted to the transceiver at this time? Oh no, I heard about the spirit in an amulet and all the other stuff, but Darren and his friends, Hardwick, were just joking, right? Sophie says, there's no way that they were being serious about you traveling with an evil spirit that has killed half the gods, right? She then pauses for a little, seeing that none of us answer her. Right? She asks again, this time in a more uncertain tone. Sophie, Darren says, I think you might need to grab a glass of water and sit down somewhere. There are a lot of things I need to tell you about. It takes Darren over half an hour to summarize all the things that have happened to us ever since we came to Wraithia. But eventually he managed to bring his wife up to speed with most of the main events that occurred during our time here. Sophie had to ask Darren multiple times during his recounting of the events if he was being serious or not, due to just how unbelievable some of his stories were, but eventually she understood that none of what he was saying was a joke, and she trusted him enough to not doubt any of the things that he told her about, no matter how ridiculous they may have sounded from an outsider's perspective. Once Darren is done with the story, Sophie stays silent for a short while trying to put everything together in her head. Darren, Sophie says eventually, these things that you have told me, your ongoing efforts to defeat one of the gods, you travel to a world from the past where there were metal vehicles flying in the skies, you talk about an entity that can erase entire universes from existence. This is a lot to take in. I know, Darren says. Trust me, I've experienced all of this firsthand, and I still find some of it hard to believe. But it's all true, I promise. Darren says, I believe you, but don't you think you might be pushing yourself too much? Sophie says, at first it was only about saving as many people as possible. Then you wanted a way to save all people from suffering. I thought you had finally found a way to do that by joining the tournament. When I find out that this world of ours isn't even all there is to it, and from what you told me, there must be thousands of other worlds out there, maybe in millions, all of them with different versions of ourselves doing different things. Will you want to save these worlds too? Where does it all end? I haven't really thought about that, Darren says. Maybe once I'll gain access to the Magium, I'll be able to travel between worlds. Then No, Sophie shouts. No. Letting you leave to other continents is one thing, but letting you go to a whole another world is too much. If you want to travel to other worlds, you're going to have to take me with you. Do you understand? I'm going with you. I don't want to live through the fear of losing you like this ever again. Okay, Darren says. I'm sorry. Next time I leave anywhere, I'm taking you with me, I promise. Do you really mean that? Sophie asks. Yes. Darren says, you have my word. We gotta get him back then. We gotta get him back. I will hold you to the promise. Sophie says, I will remind you of it until the day you die. I wouldn't have it any other way, Darren says while smiling. He's got a real good wife. Even now when he's trying to he was like, yeah, just divorce me. You go about your life, live your days, because I'm just gonna be running around the entire continent. She's like, no, we're gonna be remaining married. And holy shit, that's amazing.